Mark and her daughter Alice arrived at the space agency, ready to make a video call to her wife in space. However, the signal between the control center and the space station was suddenly cut off, and the family couldn't reach Joe. Alice was worried about her mother, and when Mark asked, she quickly ran off. When Mark realized it, she hurriedly chased after her, but Alice had already run far ahead. Meanwhile, on the space station, Joe lost contact with the ground and hurried to Alliance 2 with the detached battery. With only 15 hours left, she had to install it quickly. While she was busy, she suddenly heard a knocking sound from outside. Joe followed the sound of the knocking to locate its source, but unexpectedly discovered the mysterious cold atom device. She didn't know she had already entered the boundary space between two universes. Suddenly, the scene of the space station changed drastically, turning into a long corridor. The knocking sound from the wardrobe ahead became more distinct. She walked towards the wardrobe, but found that the environment behind her was still the space station. In the next moment, she had crossed into the future of the cosmic wall and found herself in a quite snowy field. Joe followed Alice's voice and arrived at the wooden house where she once lived, but did not realize that she had crossed the barrier of the universe. Snowflakes fell slowly, as if frozen in time, as though time itself had come to a standstill at that moment. But after a moment, the snowflakes resumed their normal descent. Joe opened the door, only to be shocked to find that she had returned to the long-abandoned wooden house. She went upstairs, still following the sound, and finally reached the wardrobe. When she opened the wardrobe, she was surprised to see her daughter, but this was not the Alice she knew. This daughter came from another universe. That was her biological daughter. Joe took the Alice from Universe Day out of the wooden house and settled her into another house, starting a fire to warm her up. However, Alice suddenly said something that confused Joe, but she didn't think much of it. I was just busy preparing warm water to help her daughter warm up. What happened next was even stranger. Joe found that the daughter who had been lying on the bed moments ago was now in pajamas and standing right in front of her. Yet she clearly remembered their daughter had been in the bathtub just moments ago. Joe quickly ran over to check, but found that there was no trace of her daughter in the bathtub. As Joe anxiously searched, the Alice in pajamas suddenly appeared behind her. Joe tried to confirm whether the daughter before her was real. She tightly embraced Alice and smelled her hair, only to realize that this daughter smelled completely different from the one she had encountered earlier. Joe asked her in confusion where the other Alice had gone, but Alice was completely unaware and had no idea what her mother was talking about. At this moment, Joe suddenly returned to the space station. She hurriedly inhaled oxygen, trying to stay calm, but her mind was filled with unease. She called the space agency again, but received no response. She then realized, in the hours she had been missing, the space agency had declared her missing and would not begin any rescue operations. Helpless, Joe could only rely on herself and try every possible way to return to Earth.